Hello guys, before we get started, I would like to give a very big thanks to our sponsors, Skillshare. If you don't know what Skillshare is an online learning community where you can have classes on almost every single topic you can imagine. The topics range from productivity, design, programming, photography, and all of that. As you can see, I've been using Skillshare for a while now and I am learning new languages and all. But for us developers, I would highly recommend you guys to take this section about Python, especially this course where it's professional RESTful API designed with Python. This is extremely important because you can build your own APIs and use them on your mobile apps. Skillshare is highly affordable. For the yearly subscription, you pay less than $10 a month. But you can use the link in the description and get 2 months for free on premium. Be quick doing that because the link is only available for the first 500 students.
Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Well guys, unfortunately it has been a while since I last uploaded a video, but that's because I'm not doing these tutorials as my full-time occupation. I am a developer and lately it has been kind of hard to manage my developing career and these amazing tutorials I like to create for you guys. But nevertheless, I am back with a very interesting video, which is the final part of our mastering payments or e-commerce in 3 hours. Because we still had a lot of functionalities to implement there, like loading the products directly from Firebase and all of that. And on this video I had all of these functionalities in place. We are loading the products directly from Firebase, we are loading the cards and the purchase history, and we are making sure we add cards to customers, we charge customers, and we are logging all of that in our Firebase and reading that using our app. I will post a small video where I will show you how the project is going to look like at the end of this video, so you guys can have a look at that and see if you want to watch the whole video, if that's something you want to build or not. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and see you guys out. See you guys in. See you.
So guys, this is what we are going to have at the end of this video. Let me just show you the project we are going to build here, or that we are going to complete. Let's start by registering a new user, and I'll just give it a random name. It doesn't really matter, and a password as well. And the very first thing that's going to happen, we are going to code this into our app. If it's the first time the user is logging in, and even if it's not the first time, if the user doesn't have a card attached to his account, we are going to get this please add your card details. This is extremely important and useful if you're building like apps that you need the user to make payments and all, right? To remember the user to add card details. Let's have a look. If we go to manage cards, this is empty because the user doesn't have any card to attach to his account. And if we go to purchase history, the same thing is going to happen. The user didn't buy nothing yet. So I'll add our test card number, which is 4242. Expiring date, a random CVV, and a random name. And now if we click on add card, if you see, now we would not have that information because the user already has a card attached to his account. Let's click on buy products. Let's go for Flutter, for example. Buy product. Now we are having here that the product was successful purchased, and the user can go back to home. Now the user has added a card to his account, and I already clicked here to buy a product. Now let's see how we have those changes reflected. If we go to manage cards, we already have here our card on the card we added, the photo card. And if we click on purchase history, we have here flutter, right? And it's basically that we're going to build. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Well guys, first of all, sorry for the long delay. The problem is, unfortunately, I'm not doing this YouTube thing as my full-time job, and most of the time I'm way too busy working that I don't have a lot of time left to record my videos. But nevertheless, here I am, and I am here to finish the payments app and integrate all of the missing features, right? Bad news, good news and bad news. The app is already fetching the images and the products from Firebase, because I saw in the comment section of the last video that a lot of you guys asked me to be fetching this directly from Firebase and maybe do some CRUD operations on Firebase. That's good. What's bad? What's bad is I did this recording a video and I forgot to save that video, and the video got lost, right? So that's bad because the video was long actually, and it's all lost, and I don't want to go again and do it all over. But since the logic for fetching the cards, the purchase history from the database is basically the same, what I will do is I'll just continue from this point, and we'll be fetching cards and managing cards and fetching the payment history from our Firebase database. And at the end, you'll understand how the products were fetched here, right? Let me just show you guys a bit how this looks on Firebase before we start coding the rest of the app. And again, we will wrap everything up. I'm talking about connecting the payment to the Stripe user and all of that, and buying products and all of that. Good. But in the meantime, let me just show you guys how things are structured here on Firebase. We have to go to, okay, let me go to storage first. And if you see, here are the images on our Firebase database storage. I can click on one of them just to show you guys how these things look like. And here I have the image link, the download link. So if I were to download this image, I would use this link. Good. So I have the images here, and I just did something like upload file, and then I chose the files, and this is how I got this here. You just click here on upload file. If we go to database, okay, this is our Firebase database, and if you see, we have users. I do have a couple of them, and we have products here. And what happens with products is that we have three parameters. The image, which is the link, actually we just pass this download link here, or this image link, we pass it here to the image. And then we have the name, which is Dart, and the price. So this is how our images are structured here inside Firebase. Okay. Which is good. Now, Before everything, let me go back to Android Studio for 1 second. You go back to Android Studio. If we have a look at our models here, we'll see that our products model matches the structure of our database structure. We have name, price, and image, right? And what else do we have? We have services, if I'm not mistaken, yes. And we have products here as well. And we have some code in here. Good. Since I did a lot of changes and probably your apps are still behind, I will create a separate branch and I will upload this code to that branch so that you guys can go and fetch exactly what I have here, and we will start from the same point, right? But basically what we have done is here on our product service, we created the get products method, which I do not want to explain exactly now because we will go over this again. And we have our product model, which basically replicates the, sorry, this is not the product models. Have our product models, which replicates the scheme of our Firebase structure, a Firebase database. And we did some modifications here. If we come to screens, where is screens and home, yeah, you will see that now we are getting the products not from a fixed list the way we used to have it here, but we are getting the products from our database. As you can see, there's no fixed products list anymore, and we are getting the lists from our database. How is that happening? We will go through it on this video, and I will show you how to do the same thing for the rest parts of our app, for the remaining parts of our app. Now what I will do to make your life easy is the command is going to be, you don't need, again, you don't have to write this command. I'm only doing this to create a different branch where I will have this code, this particular code, what I have right now, and at the end of the video we'll create a second branch where we will have the complete source code of the project. Probably it's going to be the master, but anyways, get checkout -b, and we'll call this start second video code. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but anyways, boom, and that's all we needed. We can make git commit to commit our changes, starting code for the second video, git push, but we'll need to copy this to create our app stream. So copy this code here, again, you don't need to do this again. You don't have to do this on your computer. What I was doing is create a different branch so I can save the code at the starting of the video, so that you guys can go and just clone that particular branch and we can start working from there. I will leave the link of this particular branch on the description to make sure that we all start from the very same point, right? And now I will go back to the master branch because I don't want to work here. Git checkout master. Again, we are back at the master branch. Now let's see what we have on our app. We have the images from the database, which is good. We have add cards. We have the code to do this, but still we haven't linked everything up. So we will finish this, actually adding the card to the user, which is good. We have manage cards. Again, we are not loading this from the database. We only have the structure here inside of our app. We will make sure we are loading this from our database, and probably, if we still have the time, add some delete card functionalities here. And we have the user purchase history. Good, perfect. Without further ado, let's start coding. So guys, now the very first step here is checking if the user has a Stripe ID or not. Basically, that will check if the user has already added a card. And if we do not have a Stripe ID, what we will do is basically display something here telling the user to add a card because he doesn't have a Stripe ID or something like that. How can we go about doing that? If we have a look at our models and open up users, we'll see that our user is defined in the following manner. We have the name, email ID, and Stripe ID. Wow. Now, what are we going to do here? The thing that must be done is, when we load this user, let me go back to the provider. I need the user provider, and we load the user model here. We load the user model. 1 second, I'm trying to see where do we load the user model. Okay, here we have the user model, and it gets used here at the bottom here. Here is where we get our user model. Just to see if everything is working fine, we will do adjust the mic. Okay. Just to make sure that everything is working fine, we will do a print. And inside this print, user model.name, and copy this. Let me paste it again. We'll do user model email, and we want user model, 1 second, Stripe ID. Let's reload the app and see if we are able to get that. Pay attention to our console here. And as you can see, here we have Santos at santos.com, and null for the Stripe ID. And this basically means that this user has no Stripe ID defined. What are we going to do now? Now what are we going to do is go back to our home screen. Where is the home? Go to our home screen, to the very top of the home screen, which is here. Let me go down a bit. Down to the body here. Okay, good. What we can do here is we can do something like container, the usual. For the child, be using a custom text. Please add your card details. Something like this. And we can wrap this guy inside of a padding. Let's see how it looks. I'm not able to see it for whatever reason. Let me remove this from here. It was not supposed to be here actually. And place it inside of our list view. I believe that now it's going to be visible. And here we have it. And now what are we going to do in here is we can add some decoration to this so that it doesn't look that ugly. So it's going to be box decoration. And for the color, it's going to be red. I'll put in here red 200. But the property I like the most is border radius. Border. Radius dot circular. And it's going to be 15. Let's see how it looks. It looks ugly, but whatever. Let's try to improve this guy a bit. Like reducing the size of the text, increasing the shade of the red. Still ugly. Here we'll use color white. Put a row here just to center. My way of centering widgets is weird, but it does the job. So we are going to use main axis alignment center, which will do the job. And finally, what we need here is to wrap this guy inside of the padding, which is going to be only the top and the bottom. They're both going to be 8. Okay, so now we have this warning here. Please add your credit card details. Which is scary enough, I think. But I will probably need to add something here, which is an icon. Okay. We have our warning icon here. And we will separate those two using sized box with 10. Okay, this is scary enough. Please add your card details. Good. Now, I think we are going to turn this into a button, because there's no point of this being here and not doing nothing. So what I will do is we are going to use this guy here, or this guy here, and wrap him inside a widget, which is going to be no, wrap this guy inside a widget. Sorry for that. Gesture detector. And on tap, we are supposed to do something, which is go to our card screen. Since we already have the code to do that, we'll just copy this code and go down and paste it here. Let's do a hot reload and see what happens. User clicks here, boom, redirected. Boom, redirected again. Now, obviously this is not supposed to be visible all the time. We want to make sure that this is only visible if the user doesn't have a Stripe ID, meaning that the user doesn't have a card attached to his account. So, to make that possible, or to double check that, we are going to come here to our padding, and we are going to wrap this with a widget called visibility widget. And inside visibility widget, we'll define that this guy is visible only if user dot user model exclamation interrogation mark or question mark dot Stripe ID is not equal to null. So basically we are saying that this guy is supposed to be visible if our Stripe ID is not null. And why do we use question mark and point? Is because at the beginning this user model and the Stripe ID can be null because this data needs to load. And if we don't use our question mark here, we are going to get an error saying that we are trying to call Stripe ID on null, right? So then what are we supposed to do here is hard reload and test if nothing is going to break. Okay, nothing broke, but the logic is not quite what we need. Okay, we need to make this visible if our Stripe ID is null, meaning if the user doesn't have a Stripe ID, this is going to be visible. If this is not null, let's change. If this is not null, this will basically vanish like magic. Okay, perfect. We have this part right, and this is perfectly fine. Now, what are we going to do is making sure that we can create a user on Stripe and add card to that particular user, right? Okay, let's get straight to it. So guys, now let's try to improve this code here a little bit. And the way of doing that is basically, let's go to our user's provider. And in here, we are going to define a variable. And I will be calling this variable, it will be a boolean. Called has Stripe ID, and we will default this to true. Then we'll come back here, add the bottom, here when we assign the user model, what we are going to do is we will check if user model dot Stripe ID is null, we will do has Stripe ID equals false, and basically notify listeners. Perfect. Now let's go back to our home page, and down here, instead of doing all of this, we will just do user dot has Stripe ID. Let me open up Visor, reload our app. Oops, it wasn't meant to. And it's working perfectly fine. Reload the app again. Now but this is kind of the opposite, so let's do something like this. Excuse me. It's going to be visible if the user doesn't have a Stripe ID. That's why we are putting this exclamation mark here. Reload. And boom, it works perfectly fine. Reload the app again. And here we have it. Then you can just click on add card, and here we'll place the card details. We already have this code here set on our previous video. Here we are just going to make use of that. And how are we going to do that? Let's open up this file, the add card file, and see what we have there. If we go to screens, credit card, this is what we have. Oh, and we even have this code at the bottom. Let me zoom in a bit. Unfortunately, we didn't build the structure of this file. But what we are basically doing, we are creating these variables here inside of the button add card, which will fetch the values from the fields. For example, we have one integer variable called CVC, card number, expiring year, and expiring month. And basically we are going to read those values from these fields. Good. Now after all of that is done, here we are printing, and I usually do printing to make sure that our variables have values in them, right? But the part which is important is this one. And if you did pull the code from the branch we created at the beginning of this video, you are going to see this code here, right? And here I'll just explain to you what happened, but this will be commented out. You just have to, this will be commented, you just have to uncomment this. But basically what we are doing here, we are calling Stripe services. We did create this file on our previous video. We are creating a variable of the type Stripe services. Good. And then we are doing user model.stripe ID equal to null, meaning the user doesn't have a Stripe ID. What we want to do is string Stripe ID will be equal to await, and then we are going to Stripe services dot create Stripe customer. And to create our Stripe customer, we are going to use our user model email and our user model user ID. I can click on this method just to show you how it's defined, but we did this on our previous video as well. Here we have the definition. Perfect. Now going back to our file, sorry for the noise, that's my door, I forgot to close the door, but no issue. We are creating a Stripe user using the user email and the user ID. And after we do that, we are going to do Stripe services dot add card using the Stripe ID we just got here, and the other details like the month, the year, and all of that. Now let's test this to see if it's going to work, but it probably will. But as you can see, this will do modifications on Stripe, but nothing is going to change on our app because we are doing nothing on the Firebase side of things. But for now, just to see that it all works, we can print here. the Stripe ID. And this basically will mean that the user was created. And then the card. Good. And in here we have our code, all structured. Good. Let's test this thing out. I'll restart the app. I could do a hot reload, but I will restart the app for security reasons. Let us open Visor and try this thing out. So we will click here on add credit card. Card number again. We need to use 42. This is the test card number. Expiring date 2/2020. CVV 303-202. Card holder Santos. And let's click add. Well, according to this, everything worked fine. Okay, I think we had an error, probably adding a card here, but we can take care of this. But the Stripe user creation was successful, which is good. And now we just have to review what happened here when we were adding our cards. Okay, let's have a look into that. So guys, I actually went ahead and even before I show you this, let's open Android Studio. The only thing I did change is I came here to the cards. I mean the stripe.dart file. And what we previously had here was like map. Let me zoom this a bit. We have here string and dynamic. I just deleted this, and by doing this, the map is going to default to dynamic. Good. But nevertheless, I saw that even though we had the error or the warning, this is still working because I just created this user. I came to my Stripe and I'm having a look at my users, and if we come back here, we have the credit card attached to the user, so this is working fine. Now I previously said that the changes are not reflecting on Firebase. I was wrong actually, because they are reflecting to Firebase. We did that on our previous video. I just forgot because it took me a while, but this is the part of the section where we have user service dot update details, and this will set the Stripe ID on our Firebase. Fine. Now here, what we have to do here while creating our user is that we need to add a new node called the cards on Firebase, right? To make that possible, to make this process possible, we can do two things here. We could get the response from the creation of the card, and add that to Firebase. Or instead, we could find a way around. And we will find a way around. If we go to, oh, 1 second. Okay. Let me just adjust my seat. If we go to, where's the file, services and cards, let's double click on this. And here we have create card. Good. We can make use of this. Now, let's go back to our Stripe file. Up here on our user, okay, here we have create card. Actually, card services, we already have the code. We have a lot of things done. That's good. Here we have card services, create card values. Well, the only issue here is that these values are null. That's why we're not able to create our cards. But okay, let's fix this. Let's fix this. And as a matter of fact, let me see where's the best place. To do this. Then, okay, we are going to do this here. Let me go down a bit. I'll copy this code. Copy this code from here. And get rid of this then. Good. We will come here. And right below this, we will paste this code, values. We are going to define one variable called ID. And this basically will be the card ID. Which in our case is going to be equal to payment method. Good. And another thing we need for the card is the owner. Owner ID, which is the owner of the card. sorry. But here we only have the Stripe ID. Okay, let me go back to this method. Let me define another field. User ID. And here basically we want to take the ID of our user, of the user of the app. And here we will user ID will be equal to user dot user dot UID. And now we are able to get the user ID. Let's come back here and for simplicity purposes, let's just put here user ID as well, since user ID is what we are using. So we are going to pass user ID as well. We still have couple fields, but to make sure that the structure of this goes the way we want it to do, here we are going to have expiring month and expiring year. So I'll copy this expiring month, which is going to be equal to month, and we will copy expiring year. We gonna make it equal to year. This is good. And finally, we need the last four numbers of the card. And how can we do that? Card number. Okay, this is going to be a bit long, I think, but we can do it like this. Int dot parse. Good. Now we are going to pass here the card number, which is an integer. Then we will do toString. Then we are going to need a substring. Starting index of the substring. Now the card number is structured like this. Let me I'll just comment this out. The card number is structured like this: 1 2 1 2. Then we have 1 2 1 2. Then we have 1 2 1 2. Then we have 1 2 1 2. This is the number of numbers that we have on our card number, and this would be equivalent to 0 if you want to find the index position. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Then okay, this is a bit complicated. It may look complicated, but basically what we are trying to do here is finding the index for the starting index for the last 4 numbers. We have here 16 numbers, so it should be 12, but since we are starting counting from 0, I believe that this is going to be 11. So starting index here, I'll put 11, and we will see how that is going to reflect on our code. Okay, fine. This should work. Now we should just do a test. Okay, for whatever reason my mobile device is disconnected. I'll just connect that and run the test to see if this is going to work fine. But even before we test this, let me come back here to credit card, because there's something I feel like we can improve here. Okay, and this is that we have here that if our Stripe user is null, we want to do this, but we want to make sure that if the Stripe user is not null, meaning that the user may already have his Stripe account, we want to still be able to do this. So if the Stripe user is null, we are going to generate a new Stripe ID for this user, and we are going to add a card to his account. If the Stripe user is not null, we are going to directly add a card to that existing Stripe user. So here, instead of Stripe ID, we are going to use user model dot Stripe ID. In theory, this should work just fine. So I'll connect my mobile device and see how it goes. So guys, well, I just realized that I'm constantly getting this error or something similar to this, or you may be getting something different, but the main error says that this is the main error actually, and it has to deal with the type of the map. Well, that's not making much sense for me, because the map values is dynamic, but still I'm getting that error. It's saying that string dynamic is not, it's saying that string dynamic is not of the type dynamic. Now, and that happens when it comes to creating the card, when we want to insert the card on the database. There are two things we can do to go around this. I think that could work. And the very first thing, which is the easiest thing to do, is instead of passing a map here, we are going to pass this as variables, and like that it's going to work perfectly fine. Or else I can try doing something like this to see if it's going to work right. So I'll pass the map directly as an argument of the create card method and see if in any ways this can solve the problem. So what I have to do now is run the app again. This could take a couple minutes depending on the speed of your computer and your connection and all of that. But anyways, I will just speed up everything and come back when it's done. So guys, processing was done. Here we have our app, and now what I will do is add card. Photo for our test card. Oops. Expiring date and year. Okay, perfect. Let's try adding this card and see if it's going to work or we are getting to get the error again. And apparently it did not work. Let me double check it by opening our browser and reload. So we still do not have our cards collection here, so it did not work. Let's try to find a way around. And as a way around would be, I'll open up our create card method. And in here, we are going to define some variables because we are going to be calling these parameters from our create card method. We need the user ID, which will be a string as well. We need expiring month. I think this is supposed to be an integer. Okay, my Android Studio is acting up now. Okay, it's back to normal. copy our expiring month, expiring year now. Probably I could just do int and then define these variables, but it has no problem. And our final variable, last 4. Okay, perfectly fine. And here for the values, for the ID, I'll put ID. Good. Now I will basically copy this, everything inside curly braces, including the curly braces. We'll copy that. And we'll paste everything here. Again, for the ID, expiring month, expiring year, and last 4. Okay, good. Now the final thing we have to do here is we need to make sure we are passing the values we defined. So I will get rid of this. Now for the ID, we will pass the payment method. For the last 4, we are going to pass this. For the expiring month, we are going to pass month. For the expiring year, we are going to pass year. What else do we need? The user ID is going to be the user ID. Okay, this should work fine. We have 5 variables here. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so everything should work fine. Let's just reload the app and start everything up from 0 and see if things are going to work the way we expect them to do. Oh, sorry. Now we are going to do logout. Let's start the whole flow from the beginning. Create a dummy user, ABA, and the mail is going to be aba@aba.com 123 is the password. And be aware that if you give full passwords, it's not going to sign up because the password is way too weak. If you give 4 letters for the password or 4 characters. Anyways, we are going to hit on register. Boom. Well, it's working the way we expect it to do. It's telling us we don't have a Stripe ID. That's why we have here, please add your credit card details. We are going to click on this. Again, we are going to do 4242 for our test card. And this should go away, but since we did not reload our user model, we did not have this going away. But this is an easy fix. We are going to get rid of this. For now, you can just come here and reload the app. And when the app is done reloading, that will be gone. Good. Now let's check if things are working the way we expect them to do. And if they do, we are going to have a new collection here called cards. So we are going to reload this. Fingers crossed. Boom, and it's working perfectly fine. Now we have a new collection called cards. And what the collection has is basically some details about our card, which should be enough. Good. Now let's go ahead and execute what let's charge the user, and then from that get the purchase history. Let's start by charging the user now. Oops. So guys, the good news is that thankfully on our last video we created a lot of methods, and one of them was this, to charge the customer. So actually we don't have to implement nothing new, we just have to make use of this method. Good. Now one thing I will do is I'll create a very simple screen that will basically confirm that your purchase was done, so that you just don't click buy and nothing happens, right? Let me just run this. And to make that possible, sorry, we will be going to home, or not home. We can go to widgets. I think that we better do that using widgets. And in here, let's open up the products card. Okay, everything fine. And now we just have to let me comment this thing out. Good. Let's add a gesture detector in here. Let me see from where. Here. For our container, we are going to add a gesture detector. Good. And we are going to add untap property for our gesture detector. Now let's create a screen, new screen. To make that, just right click and create a new Dart file. You should be already familiar with this. I just don't know why my computer is not allowing me to create a new file. Okay, it's fine. New Dart file. Purchase successful. And then hit OK. Now on our new file, we are going to import flutter packages material.dart as always, and then a stateless widget. I don't know why my computer is slow, but probably because I put it on sleep and I didn't actually close the programs. Anyways, I'll call it success, and it's going to be a scaffold. We will have our body property, which is going to be a column. And we will add children to our column. And again, I'm not trying to make this beautiful. The focus here is not the user experience, but the functionalities, before you guys get mad because of the way the app looks. So we will do main axis alignment. Centered, because we want everything centered. Custom text, for the message we will do purchase successful, and then making sure that the color of this is green would be good. I probably need to import this. Sized box of height, just to create a bit of separation, of height 10 should be fine. And finally, I'm trying to see what can we do. Okay. Flat button icon. on pressed. We're not going to do nothing special. I will just go back to home. So navigator dot pop context. For the icon, we'll use icon icons.home, and for the label we'll use custom text with the message go back home or go to home. Anyways, this should be fine. Not beautiful, but fine. Now to test things out, let's make sure that on tab we are doing change screen and then calling this. Restart the app just to see if everything is working fine. And let's open up Visor. I'll probably call it from my other screen. Sorry for that. I'm just trying to open up Visor, but let me 1 second. One second. Okay, here we have it. We have Visor. We will click on View. Perfect. And in here, if we click on Buy, this is what we have. Not beautiful, but functional. But what we can do to improve this just a bit is probably doing something like this, wrapping my friend here. No, let's do cross-axis alignment. Cross-axis alignment center as well. And see how it goes. It was supposed to work, it didn't. Centered. On those cases, what I do is I wrap the particular widget inside of a row and do main axis alignment center, just like that. Probably this is not the best way of doing this, but it works, so gets the job done. That's important. Main axis alignment center as well. And this is what we want. Purchase successful. Go back home. Done. We have to add that functionality here as well. for these cards here, and I'll just copy and paste the code, and that should be fine. Now again, you will want a way of double checking if the user already has a Stripe ID, and if the user doesn't have a Stripe ID or a card, you will if the user tries to buy something, or you redirect him to the card screen, or you tell him that he has to add his card details. That's not super difficult to do, and I believe you guys can get that done. But for now, here, what we can do is going to Stripe. Actually, let me open up this. Stripe services. And what we are going to do here is not extremely difficult to do. We'll create a variable user. As a matter of fact, I can go straight to home and copy this. We want to be able to use our provider, so just copy that, come back here because the variable is basically the same, and obviously you'll need to import this, so just hit import and import again, which should be fine. And now what are we going to do is going to our Stripe services, going back to our product file, and what we will do is create a variable of the type Stripe service. Obviously you'll need to import this. Good. And then we'll do Stripe services dot wait a second. The method we are trying to call here is the charge method. The method Stripe services isn't defined. The method charge isn't defined in the class Stripe services. That's awkward, but let me have a look into that. It doesn't make no sense because here we have the method charge. How come it's telling us that the method is not defined? Okay, let's try to change the method name. Oh, I did a mistake, I think. Okay, I get the mistake I did now. I defined this method inside of another method. So we'll have to take charge outside add card because it doesn't make no sense having it there. And we'll paste it here. Which the error was understandable. And now we can do charge. For us to be able to charge, we need two things. And one of them is our customer, which will be user, user model, Stripe ID. And secondly, the amount, which is going to be price. But this is supposed to be an integer. I'll just put dot floor. This is not the best approach to convert this from a double to an integer, but this will get the job done. And basically what dot floor does is it will round this to the nearest integer number. And this is not what you actually want to do, but this can get the job done for now. And you can find a way around of converting your double prices into integers. But anyways, we have this. If this is done, our charge is a void. But we can make it to return true, and in case of an error, returns false. And we're gonna make this a future boolean. Or even better, we can get rid of this and do something like try. Catch. There was an error. Charging the customer. And here you have the error. And finally, we are going to return false. Oops, this was supposed to be E, not R. Okay, which is good. Now we did that modification, we can come back here. And if this is successful, if value, meaning that if everything works fine and we get through, we want to change screen. Else print we have an error. And again, if you want to make it easier, instead of printing, let's go back to our login and copy this code here. For the snack bar, because now we can display this to the user instead of just displaying that on our console. Payment failed. And again, we just have to come here and copy our global key. let's try to define this global key. Okay, and again, this has a lot of trial, and yeah, hopefully it all works fine. So that we don't have any confusion, we'll change this to scaffold key and paste it here as scaffold key. Go back here and we're having some issues to make this work, so let me change my approach. Just remove the final and define this as global key. Hopefully that gets the job done. Still doesn't. Okay, we'll find a way around this. We can comment that for now so that we don't waste a lot of time trying to make this work. And for now, we'll just have, we have an error. We have a payment error. Okay, which is good. Now, if this is successful, before we even change, we need to insert this to our database. Good. Where is our services.charge? Here we have it. Let's go to services.charge. I will add another field here and call it user ID. And in here, I'll have the user ID is equal to user the UID good. Now the last thing we will want to do here is going to going to our charges and making sure we're adding this to our database, Firebase database. So guys, now we are trying to make sure that all of our purchases are going to be logged on our Firebase database. If we come here to services, we can see that we have purchases here. Let's see how this file is structured and what can we use from here. Okay, good thing we have here. Good thing is that we already have basic structure here. Create purchase. This is good. but probably we'll need to modify this file because this function, but it's fine. Now let's go to our models and see how the purchases are structured. So I'll have to zoom in a bit. Okay, so these are the details that we need. Let's open up our create purchase and modify this. Good. Now we are going to do string ID and then we want the product name, and my computer is slow as always. But no worries. Which is going to be a string as well. Now we need the amount. And we go to purchase services. And how are we going to save the amount? Int, right? Or double? I think it's double. Well, here is defined as int. I may have some issues because some places I've defined amount as double and some places as int, but no worries, we'll take care of that. And we have the customer ID, which we could just call user ID. Okay, it's fine. No, it's not fine. Let's call it user ID. And let's rename this everywhere. So here we have user ID. Okay, done. oops, and here we are going to call string user ID, the date, and finally we need the card ID. Which is perfect. Here, instead of values ID, we'll just use ID. And finally, we will define these values. ID has been ID, product name has product name, and we'll just basically do the same for the remaining variables. What do we have left? Date and the card ID. How can we get the date? To string. Sorry for that. And finally, apart from the date, what do we need here? Card ID. So this should work fine to create our purchase history. Good. Now let's do one last thing, which is going to Stripe, and exactly here when we charge the customer, and for the charge we still need one last thing, which is string card ID, so that we can see which card was charged. And go back here when we call this method. Okay, to get the card ID we would need kind to do a bit of work, but I don't want to write a lot of code, so I just thought of a way around. Let's go back to the Stripe. Here, when we do add card, this is the add card method. Okay, when create a card, we do create that. Let's go up a bit to where we create our Stripe customer, because I need this code. Go back to add card. After we have the card, we will do something which is active card, and this field here will just take care of the current active card, right? And we are going to have the card ID here, and when the user changes the current active card, we are going to update this field here. Good. Now we will have to go to our user model, because we have a new field now, so we must do some modifications to match that. Active card is the name of the field. Oops. Oops again. Active card. And if we open up our Stripe, okay, good. We have active card here and active card here. And of course, we'll have to do string active card. For the getter, again, we'll have to do active card, and basically repeat this process. And if you wonder why I commented the Stripe ID, is so that I can get these errors and I can see where I must add the active card. So it's just a way of helping me out. Now when all of this is done, you just come and uncomment here the Stripe ID and uncomment it. It's just a way to make sure that you will add this field on all of the required portions of the code. Good. Now when we do charge, we are asking for a card ID. Good. And in here, what we will do is card ID is going to be equal to user model dot active card. Sweet. Okay, perfect. Now, when all of this is done, we will want to do purchase services. Make them equal to purchase services and purchase service dot create purchase. ID we can generate random IDs using UIID. I don't really remember how it's called, but let me just copy the package here. Sorry. So that you see what's happening, I will take this from my second screen to my main screen, and we can use this package to generate keys, uniquely identified keys. Installing is easy. We just come over here, copy. Of course, we'll need to go to our pubspec file. Paste it, get dependencies. And this is how it works. Let's go back here. Paste this variable. Import. Copy this code and it's done. Purchase ID will be equal to this. So in here, for the ID, we are going to put purchase ID. Good. What else do we need? For the amount, we are going to put amount. For the card ID, we put card ID. User ID, user ID. What else do we need? Product name. That's something else that we must get. And probably getting product ID as well would be helpful. but you get the idea, right? String product name, we define this variable, and just in here we can get our product name, so here we have our product name being equal to product name, and I think that's it. ID, amount, card ID, user ID, product name, ID, product name, amount, user ID, date, card ID. The date is generated in here, so we don't have to worry about that. So after all of this is done, that's when we are going to return true. Okay, now we wrote a lot of code. Let's just test it to see if it works fine. But to test it, I rather restart the app and create a new user so that we get the complete flow. Let's do it. Hello guys. So I had to stop a bit, but I realized something when I was doing a test. Our charge function is not going to work properly, but it's not a problem related to the code. Actually, it's because the amount we are charging is way too small. That's just that. So what I need you to understand or to do, I hard coded the value we are charging here to $10, and this looks like 1,000, but it's $10 because the last two digits are after the decimal place. That's how Stripe works, and that's why I have this comment here. Writing 1,000 is equal to $10. We are counting these two digits has the last two decimal places. If you want to charge, let's suppose $10.99, you would write something like 10 then 99. You would read that as 1,099, but it's not exactly that. You write 10 then 99. So you write the last two digits of the number are after the decimal place. Perfect. So structuring this like this, I believe that the charge should work, should function properly. But we are going to test that by running visor, and I didn't test this. I just did this modification on the function, but I did not actually test it. So we will test that right now. Let me just go to my other screen and okay, open up visor. And let me open up Firebase as well. But for the time being, I can put this aside. Sorry, here we have visor working perfectly fine, and let's try to hit buy. Okay, we do have an error here, and let's see what the error says. It's telling us that we have a response error. So this probably has something to deal with the Stripe code, but to troubleshoot this, we will go to Stripe. Okay, Stripe. Oh, my computer is not connected. Maybe that's the issue or something related to that. Okay, let me fix that by connecting my computer to my Wi-Fi, and probably after that everything is going to work perfectly fine. So now I am connecting my computer to my Wi-Fi and it's connected. Good. Okay, now we are trying to load Stripe, and here we have it, and we can go straight to our Stripe dashboard. The connection is not that fast, but no problem. Now let's hit here on developer, and what we want is to click on logs, and we can see that we have an error here with the charges. Let's hit it and click on it and see what the error says. It says the customer does not have card with ID. Okay, let's find a way around, which is starting the complete workflow, and see if that is going to solve our problem. And what I mean is basically we must find a way of not showing payment successful when the payment is not successful, but we can take care of that afterwards. For now, let's just hit register, and I'll just put here a random username, and have bca.com, and for the password 11111111, as always. Let me open up Android Studio and see if okay, it's all done, no problem. We can go back to the app, and again, as we expected, we have here, please add your credit card details. And again, you know what to do. We are going to enter here some fake card details, which is done. Date, the CVC, okay, perfectly fine. And as I was saying, we have to find a way of automatically removing this without having to restart the app when the user already has the credit card attached to his account. Click on buy. Well, we didn't. Oh, I was about to celebrate saying that we didn't get any error, but we still have the error here, and I believe that that's the same error. Let's have a look at the logs. Excuse the slowness of this, but I'm just trying to open up the logs to see what's the error. Okay, it's taking too long to load, but okay, good. The problem is when we're trying to charge the customer, because it says okay, let's see what we can do to fix this. So guys, I found a solution to our problem, and we basically have to open up our charge method. Okay, we are inside charge method, and here where it says source, we just have to pass in our card ID, because this is the card we are going to charge. And if you remember, card ID is the user active card, right? Good, and this should work fine, but let's do something else. If we go to services, then click products, and down here we have the method to get the products. Let me zoom in and try to explain you guys what's happening here. And the method we use to get the products basically, sorry, this is not the products. Oh, 1 second. I think I have that on the providers, the method to load the products. Let's just check there. Okay, that's funny. I was supposed to have a products file here, but okay, let's do it this way. Open up home, and obviously somewhere here we are going to use the products list. Let's just scroll. Bear with me here. Okay, here we have products list. Now let us see where this products list is initialized. Okay. I think we made a bit of a mess here. Or probably I saved everything on the other branch. Let's just go and check the other branch. But in the meantime, we will need to do oops. Let's do a git commit. Okay. Now let me go and check the other branch because I believe that there are some modifications that are not on our master branch. Let's just check out. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We have a provider that deals with the products. And basically this is all we have here. And we have this method called get products here. And this is what I'm supposed to explain to you guys so that we will be able to load cards and purchase history from the database as well. So to start things off, I'll go back to the master. Good. And I'll click here and I will merge. Merge is basically joining the two codes from that branch and the master branch as well. Okay, I think the merge was successful. But let's have a look. And if you see, now we have our products provider. And on our services, we have products as well. Excuse me. We have products here as well. Let's have a look at our main file. And if you see, we are calling the products here as well. Okay, everything is fine. Let me start explaining you guys what happened here. So guys, now that we merged the code from the other repo into our master, I'll explain you guys a bit what happened and try to replicate the same logic to load the cards and the purchase history from our database, from Firebase, which is our database. Okay. Now what's going to happen here is, let me open up this products, and again, if you don't have a way of merging this code, basically you can come and you can recreate this file. Just go to your providers, you'll create a file, products provider, you can give it any name you want, and we are giving a structure of a provider. What do we need? We need a list of products from this, which we are going to initialize as empty at the beginning, and we are going to make use of our product service as well. Let me click here to see how the products model is structured. For the product, again, we have the name, the price, and the image. That's all we need. Going back to our provider, we are then going to create another variable for our product services. And if I have a look at this file, which is at the services folder, product service, we have, let me zoom in a bit. We have the name of our collection, which is products, and we are creating a Firebase Firestore instance. The method we are using to get products is going to be a feature method, obviously, because we will be waiting for the products to be passed to our app. And this feature is going to return a list of products. Get products is name of the argument of the method, sorry. And then again, Firebase store collection, a collection name which is products, get documents. Then after we get our documents here, we are going to do something. We are creating a local variable here called products list, which is going to be a list of products. And what are we doing is, for every single item inside of this result, meaning every single product on our database, we are going to add products.add products.from a snapshot. We are creating products objects and we are adding that to our products list. And that's basically what we're doing, and then we are returning the list of products, and we are going to do the same thing for all of the other methods. Okay, sweet. So now we can just copy this, because honestly the logic is the same. Copy. Let's go to our services and cards. This is not going to work, unfortunately. So we are going to do it like this. We'll copy the same structure we have there. Zoom in a bit. One second. This is called get purchase history, but actually what we're doing here is getting the cards. I forgot to change the name. This should be get cards or get user cards. Get cards. And again, we are going to return card model, not products. But now here we are going to have because we don't want to load all of the cards on our database, we are going to need our customer ID, which I will change to user ID. let me open up the cards model. Okay, I'll leave this as customer ID for simplicity purposes. Good. Let me go up. Oh, we may have a problem here. Let's use user ID everywhere so that we don't get into trouble. Change this to user ID as well. Let's open up our cards model and change this guy to user ID. This is supposed to be user ID. Good. And this as well, user ID, like this. Obviously we have errors now. But it's just a matter of passing user ID everywhere. And it's all done now. Good. And we can change here to user ID as well so that we will match everything. Here, before we get documents, we need this. So basically we want to get a collection, every single thing or every single document on our collection where the user ID is equal to user ID. So we will get every single card where that belongs to that particular user. Good. I'll write this as cards, which is going to be a list of cards, but we gave card model here. So for every single document on our database, we are calling item every single document on this list item. We will do cards.add cards, which is the list of cards. We want to add card model dot from snapshot, and we are passing the item. And printing the number of cards, always good. and we are returning the list of cards as cards. Good. We will do the same for our purchase history. So what's going to happen now is we are going to open up purchases and edit this method here. So let's continue modifying this method, and instead of get cards, I will call it get purchase history. But let's have a glance at our purchase model. To see what we have here, and we do have user ID, so it's fine. And here, instead of card model, we'll return purchase model, taking the user ID, and here instead of customer ID, we'll use user ID. And user ID here as well. So going down here, we have a purchase model. We will create a list called purchase history, which will contain all of the purchase records. And we'll have purchase model from snapshot as well. And finally, we are going to print here this and this. Now we can start testing these things out. Now we can start testing our code. But before we do that, we have these methods, but we are not calling them yet. So let's do that. Let's go to our user model. I believe we'd not have to create new providers for this, because in a way it's still related to the user. So what we would do here is create a list, empty list called cards, and another called purchase history. So here we have the list. Of the type card model, and we will call it cards. We better initialize it. It's an empty list. And we will create a second one call it purchase history, and here we'll be using purchase model. Good. Now what are we going to do is here, exactly here, when we load the user details, we are going to do matter of fact, we still need to create another variables. We need one which is going to be one which is going to be our card services. Make this variable private. And a final one which is going to be purchase services. Make it private as well. Done. Now let's go back here and we will do cards is going to be equal to await card services, get cards, user ID is going to be user UID. And for the purchase history, again, it's going to be await purchase services dot get purchase history for the user dot UID. And well, this is going to load the lists at the beginning, but if the user does purchase while the app is open, this is not going to be automatically updated. But that's an easy fix. We can create a method to update this list every time a user purchases something. Good. And then we're notifying listeners. Good. Now let's go back to our cards and purchase screens. Okay. And here we are at our purchase screen. Let's open up home. And from home, we will copy this. Go back to our purchase history. Define it and import provider. Now, what are we going to do here for our list is basically do user dot purchase history dot length. We can get rid of this. Delete it. Now, okay, seems like we have a bit of stress here. And now you would have to copy this, replace it here and here and here. Then our problem is solved. And finally, we will want to come here to manage cards. First of all, let me copy this line. Paste it here. Import this guy. Import this guy. And go a bit up. We are using a list style in here. Okay, this is what we want, our list view builder. And in here we'll pass user.cards. Done. So we can get rid of this. We are going to have a couple errors, but it's good. Copy user.user cards and replace it here and here and here. Now this should all work fine. We did the modifications we had to do, and we are just left with testing the app. This should work. Let's hope it does. But before we do some testing, I wanted to show you guys something. For the cards, you can delete card. We already have the methods here. You just have to implement them, right? The same way we've been implementing. If you want to delete the cards, this is the method. If you want to update them, this is the method, right? So you can do Firebase CRUD right here. You just have to implement the methods, and I will not implement them on the video because it's going to be too long, but it's just a matter of calling these methods and passing the right values, and it's going to work perfectly fine. Let's test the app.